Hello. Thank you for joining Advising's first Diversity Inclusion Task Force and celebrating and honoring Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month. My name is Ashlyn Burr, and I serve as an academic advisor here at Florida State University for first-year exploratory college students. This PowerPoint presentation will provide a brief overview of Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month, and it will conclude with 2 interviews. We will be interviewing our own Advising First college life coach, Rolando Torres, as well as Adelia Larramendi, who is a student at FSU and the director of the Hispanic Latinx Student Union. So Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month traces its origins back to 1968 when Hispanic Heritage Week was first recognized and celebrated. In 1988, Congress expanded Hispanic Heritage Month to from a week to a month, from September 15th to October 15th. The date of September 15th is significant because it marks the independence of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Furthermore, Mexico celebrates its independence on September 16th, and Chile celebrates its independence on September 18th. National Hispanic Heritage Month is observed annually to celebrate the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. One of the biggest questions and a gray area that arises when discussing Hispanic and Latinx culture and heritage deals with correct terminology. Juliana Martinez, who's an author and assistant professor at American University, argues that the terms Hispanic and Latino became institutionalized through the U.S. Census and may not resonate or encompass all identities and populations that have historically been used to refer to. As a rule of thumb, if you are unsure of how to address someone or have doubts on how to refer to them respectfully, ask if the space is warranted. Hispanic typically refers to Spanish speakers from Latin America or those who have Spanish-speaking ancestors from Latin America. Latino, Latina, and Latinx typically refers to individuals who are from or whose ancestors are from Latin America. Spanish refers to individuals who are from Spain. When referring to someone's nationality, an individual should only be referred to by a specific nationality if they have disclosed a country of origin or a historical heritage tied to another nation. Cultural ambiguity. Cultural ambiguity refers to the influence of different cultures. A user is cultural ambiguous if they have been influenced by different cultural groups and or carry a cultural identity that cannot be clearly assigned to a certain territory. This may be widely seen within the Hispanic and Latinx community, as individuals may hold more than one cultural or ethnic backgrounds at the same time. While individuals from Latin America are often labeled as Hispanic and or Latinx, Latino, Latina, it is important to understand that the culture and history of each nation can be significantly different from another. With the rise of first, second, and third generation Americans with Hispanic or Latin American heritage, there's a new conversation happening about belonging. As Cuban-American poet Sonia Guerra stated in her poem titled "We Are," written in college many, many moons ago, and though we do not belong to Cubans or Americans, we belong to each other. We are not ellos, we are not them, we are. When in doubt, ask. Curiosity is one of the most powerful tools we have when looking at diversity and inclusion. Returning to the sense of wonder and exploration we had as children, discovering the world is one of the ways that we can create an environment where everyone feels welcome and supported. Asking questions not to box people in, but rather to give the freedom to express their true selves. So before assuming, ask.
Hello, my name is Daniel Gonzalez Valdez, and I am one of the college life coaches here with AF College Life Coaching Center. And I would like to welcome you to the Diversity and Inclusion Walk in Their Shoes video series, where we get to listen to and learn from staff members and students about their experiences. This past month, I had the honor of talking with Adelia Larramendi, who is the director of the Hispanic and Latinx Student Union, as well as Rolando Torres, one of the senior life coaches at the coaching center, and got to learn from their experiences and see what it would be like to walk in their shoes.
Me llamo Rolando Torres. I go by Rolly for short. I'm Cuban American, born and raised in the 305, aka Miami, for all of you that don't understand area codes and area codes that are above all other area codes in the world. Yeah, born and raised there, lived there 21 years of my life, and then somehow I got whisked away to Tallahassee, and here we are, still living here. I'd love to talk a little bit about that. So I can name so many challenges, but I think the most prominent one that I have personally faced, right? So we're talking just specifically my story right now, not the story of all Cuban people, but just me. I think one of the big ones that I have faced is issues of colorism. Probably have been a big issue for me. So when I'm home in Miami, one of the bigger things that I face, and it's really kind of silly, but not at the same time. You know, I remember multiple instances of going to Publix down in Miami and standing in like the line to just like check out, and all the ladies, you know, there's a bunch of old ladies with like super long nails, you know, stereotypical Cuban old woman. Really nice people, but at the same time, you're like, there's an image in my mind of them every time I think of them, and they're always talking Spanish to everyone around them, and then including like the people in front of them. And then, you know, when I walk up to the cash register, for whatever reason, they decide that it's a good idea to shift their conversation from Spanish to like English, and then I'm like, why are you doing that? I understand Spanish, so I in turn talk Spanish to them. And that's like a really small example, but like there are a lot of little instances like that when I'm in Miami where I'm too white to be like Hispanic. And so, you know, I share that story as like just a small little sliver of what that's like. You know, inversely, when I'm in Tallahassee, I'm somehow then too Hispanic to be white. And I don't have any specific, you know, microaggression stories related to like my you know, ethnicity and race in Tallahassee, because I've never experienced it, but I have had some like stereotypical things said to me. I think one of my like older coworkers, not right now, older as in like a few years back, asked me like, you know, hey, Cubans, you guys are really good with burritos, right? And I'm like, what? No? Yeah. Excuse me?
Yeah.
I think some other ones. I think the biggest thing that affects me while I'm in Tallahassee is that there's this difficulty in connecting with white people. And I don't mean that to sound bad. I think it's not a negative issue. It's just like, for whatever reason, I can't make friendships or establish connections as easily. There's almost like, it feels like almost like this invisible wall that kind of separates us. And I'm sure a lot of that is like cultural differences. Whereas, you know, if someone were to come from Miami, or if someone is of Hispanic descent, there's an immediate like easy connection there. Like if I say the word chancleta, like most Hispanics immediately know and feel the pain burning on their backside from what that word really means, you know? When I start talking about like food, like the passion that comes up, not saying that, you know, other people of other races don't have a passion for food, but like it's different, right? There's like this connection. And so, you know, one of the biggest challenges that I have kind of faced is that, like, you know, I know I mentioned colorism, you know, here it's like I have been at times denied opportunities, I feel like, because of, you know, I didn't fit a specific mold, right? Because I, you know, wasn't what they thought that I would fit into that role. I don't want to speak too deeply into that, you know, but it definitely comes down to, you know, I'm too white in Miami and then I'm too Hispanic in Tallahassee. So there's no real middle ground, it feels like, and sometimes I feel kind of stuck between worlds. And there's like way more stories as well that I can kind of go into, but yeah, we would need a whole hour segment just to talk about that topic. diversity, inclusion, all that. That's such a broad topic that and it's an important topic. And so I'm really glad that we're having these conversations now to kind of learn more about people and their stories, because that's, I think, the most
Right.
important thing. You know, for as long as I can remember, after the, Fidel Castro years in Cuba, which, for those of you that don't know, dictator, institutionalized socialism over there, for the Cuban people, and it did kind of some harm, and that brought down a lot of like intellectual elites and just a lot of opportunity in Cuban culture. Like before that, there were so many doctors and lawyers, et cetera, that were Cuban, and then they kind of got exiled over here. So I think a victory for me in who I am and as a Cuban American is just getting up into a master's degree. Honestly,
Right.
There are very few, even just like any race and ethnicity, in these higher level degrees, like master's degrees and PhDs, and
Right.
any like race that is able to achieve a degree like that, that's a victory already. Because for me, it's almost like, when I go back to Miami and people see that I have a master's degree, potentially maybe one day a PhD, they can see themselves hopefully in me,
Right.
inspiring younger Cuban children to be like, oh, good, that's totally possible. Like I can see myself in this because he also has a master's degree, and kind of pushing the bounds as to what is achievable with our race, and ethnicity, and showing others that like you can exist in these upper reaches. Um, and so kind of, I think that kind of is a motivator for me, in a lot of ways, career-wise, and even leadership-wise, is just to make sure that there's representation in like all levels of things. Because in the broader scheme of things, I think of like legislation and how that's done, but like the representation in it is very much like one specific, race and ethnicity. And I think having more diversity and inclusion to represent what you actually have now as a growing population in your country, and even in a smaller sense in your organizations. And so
Right.
having more people that look like me in positions of power to represent the people that are quote unquote unseen, we're going to say, because they may not, for whatever reason or another, they haven't been able to make it to the top, or for another reason or another they are passed over because of their race or ethnicity. And so as a
Right.
Cuban, I think my biggest victory is just slowly pounding my way up, upwards, to give visibility that like, hey, Cuban Americans, like you can get master's degrees, you can get PhDs, you can get doctorates, all that jazz. Like you can get up there on those levels and be recognized. And if I was to summarize what diversity and inclusion means to me, is seeing more people who look like me, and by me, I'm not speaking specifically, white Cuban male. I mean like, like colored Cuban people, white Cuban people, male and female, like up there in the different, in leadership roles. And also having, kind of adjusting our immigration system to be, easier for people that are trying to immigrate to this country, which was founded upon by immigrants anyways, right? Quoting Alexander Hamilton, immigrants will get the job done, and we did, and we do, right? We do a lot of the jobs that people don't want to do. And so I really want to see more of my people growing to levels of leadership, to break the old stereotypes, to break the molds that are put upon them by others.
Hello, everyone. I am Adela Larramendi. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the director of the Hispanic Latinx Student Union. I'm also a third-year biomedical engineering major, and I was born and raised in Madrid, Spain, to Cuban parents, and I moved to Miami 5 years ago, and that's how I'm here at FSU. It's definitely a cultural shock coming to Florida State University. I have no complaints about my experience at all. It's been great since I came, but sometimes you experience that kind of like shocks when you're talking to people that may not relate that much to your community or may have not been exposed to any people from your community before, and they feel maybe like asking some kind of questions is okay. I have been asked a lot of questions. I do have a kind of like a harsh accent sometimes. It's when I speak and all that, sometimes people can catch up on, hey, where are you from? You sound different. Just because I'm white passing, some people don't expect for me to have an accent. And that is definitely a topic on colorism and feeling like just because I am white, it doesn't make me less of a Latina or a Hispanic, and your skin tone shouldn't never give you kind of like effect on your ethnicity, since Hispanic being Latino is not a race, it's an ethnicity. So I
Right.
have definitely had to answer some questions where it's like, oh yeah, I come from here, this is why I have an accent, I came to this country 5 years ago, I'm still kind of catching up on some expressions and all that. I've also heard the, oh, that's so exotic, or oh, you're coming from Spain and Cuba, that's such a nice mix, which is okay. But those are some type of questions that white people don't ask each other. It's like, where are you from? It's like,
Right.
oh, well, I'm from Miami. You know, I feel like I
Right.
have to explain all of my lineage, you know, all of my path till I came here. So so just when referring to the Hispanic Latinx community, I'm going to kind of refer my experience also in the agency, the Hispanic Latinx Student Union. I had been involved in the agency since I was a freshman, and I've seen a lot of things come alive while I was there, things that were in the works and all that. Something that I definitely would highlight is the creation and our building on to the Hispanic Latinx Alumni Network. That was something that was created last year with Christian Diaz's administration. And now with my administration, we're trying to like build onto that relationship and that connection between alumni and undergrads. That is something definitely that we're very excited about, since we didn't have that kind of connection, that strong connection with our alumni before. We have also, well, some triumphs also come with homecoming. We're very proud. We always like put on this big show for community of our community for homecoming. So we did win the float and the banner last year. We had a really nice float that was super hard to put together, but we did it. And it was really fun. We definitely have a lot of videos from back then. It was super fun. And it's kind of like this event where everyone comes together. You can see actually everyone from different
Right.
organization, our affiliates, everyone kind of coming together and building that flow and marching
Right.
with us with our banner. It's definitely a triumph for me. Also bringing back some communities that, as for example, right now we're also bringing back as an affiliate the Afro Latinx Student Association. They are doing a great job, and seeing them grow, I feel like it's also a triumph for the community in general. Seeing them come back and put on these amazing events that we try to always support, and seeing them, all the affiliates coming together to also support them, is definitely adds on to the sense of community and familia that we always strive for.
Right.
So that's always really nice too. I would definitely kind of come back also to the obstacles, that the part that I referenced. Um, People really get mixed up the race and ethnicity definition. Sometimes they don't really acknowledge the variety of skin tones and races. And nationalities that the Hispanic Latinx community has. When mentioning the Afro Latinx Student Association, I love to see that association flourish and getting more members, since it's always a community, the Afro Latinx community is always a community that has been kind of thrown down, and also kind of left apart, since in our community we can also definitely acknowledge that we are um, perpetrators of colorism. We go back to the recognizing if you're whitewashed, then you definitely have a privilege in our community, you know, and that's something that we all have to acknowledge. The fact that I might be white passing and I can just like kind of get away with getting into some spaces that some Afro Latinx folks might have some trouble on some more issues or some more obstacles with getting in those spaces. I think that is something that we definitely have to reiterate and build onto it and educate people that here's this problem that we need to fix, not only for the outsiders, but for the people in our own community to realize this is an actual problem, this is an actual issue, and we need to educate ourselves and be better always. So same thing with indigenous community, with the different races, different nationalities, and geographic locations of everyone in the Hispanic Latinx community. We get this huge geographic part, but most of America is us, and we need to understand that we are different, but we are united, and we need to help elevate these voices that have been pushed down for many, many years. Oof. My cultural identity has basically marked and impacted my life since the very first moment I was placed on this earth, if I can say it like that. I was born in Madrid, Spain, to Cuban parents. They had escaped from Cuba in the 90s, and they had moved to Spain, to Madrid, and they had me there, right? So I was already placed in a country, and also kind of like a mindset, a space that wasn't really welcoming for immigrants. So since I was very little, even though I was born in Spain, I was always treated as the outsider because I was also Cuban. Um, People can be really mean. People can be really kind of afraid of what they don't know. And me explaining to them that, hey, I may not be able to do these types of things because, hey, I'm only here with my mom and my dad, and all the rest of my family is in Cuba, you know. It was definitely an impact for me that shaped me into the person that I am today. And also immigrating, being a first generation in Spain, and then immigrating myself and becoming an immigrant to here in America at this time. in like in all the years I had to come in this year where immigration, and it has always been important, but right now it's getting into a very important situation where all immigrants have to come together and kind of unite our voices to fight against discrimination. And I love to see all of this movements and advocacy directed toward the Hispanic Latinx community. And that definitely inspired me a lot to become part of the Hispanic Latinx Student Union, try to be out there with my community and the people that I relate a lot to. Since I was very little, I had to kind of like put myself out there and my cultural identity out there and being proud of who I am, even though you may feel kind of weird about me not being completely Spanish or completely Cuban or completely American. And I'm just kind of on that limbo. But since I came here and became more involved and definitely developed on my leadership and the agency and in general too, it has definitely helped me with my confidence and developing my cultural identity and realizing that this is who I am, and this is the job that I'm doing, is to help the folks that have been going through the same things as me or even worse things, and giving a voice and letting this community guide the conversation that needs to be addressed in general, you know, and voicing our issues. This is always that, like, this kind of questions always make me reflect a lot on my leadership and my role as a director of the Hispanic Latinx Student Union. It's been really hard to be a director and also to be an assistant director like Laura Medina, and trying to like guide and lead this organization through this rough times. And it's been really hard to put something together like our HHM and kind of bring it up to the public and seeing their reflections and their comments and their concerns. We are working in not only educating the public, but also educating ourselves on how to be more inclusive, more aware, and more educated. We're definitely striving for the communities in that fall under the Hispanic Latinx identity to guide conversations of the issues that they experience, but for them to guide the conversations themselves. We're trying to bring out a platform for these communities to actually voice their opinions and for them to also educate us, educate our own community. And so we are able to educate everyone that's not in our community too, you know, and bring a united message and a united kind of information so that everyone can actually benefit from our events or programs and everything. So I would say that definitely diversity and inclusion looks like communities guiding their own conversations that pertain to them.